I'm about to bring on arguably the original Nordic Noir goddess, still the best in my opinion. She's the only woman that my mother, while she was still alive, she turned to my father and said was the only woman she would go gay for. I think we all would. So please give an enormous Nordicana welcome to the wonderful Sofie Gråbøl. The Killing comes along, and was this a big departure for you in terms of stuff that you'd done before? Like, did you have to sort of think long and hard about taking on this role, or was it just, no, I'm embracing this from the off?
No, I was very reluctant, but that was because the writer of The Killing, Søren Malling, he and I worked together on a series before The Killing called Nikolai and Julie. I think we did 20 episodes of that, and I was Julie.
And that was a big rom-com thing, sort
yes.
of, yeah.
Yes, and it was lovely, and the audience loved it in Denmark, and it won an Emmy in America.
Well done.
But anyways, it was. I had small children, and it was very, very hard work. Also because the writer. The scripts were never finished, and
yes.
You know, it was very, very stressful. And I had conversations with Søren, the writer, every night, and I was just, I was happy to do it, but I was also happy when it ended. So when Piv, our producer, who also produced The Killing and Nikolai and Julie, she called me and said, Søren has a new story. I was like, nah, I don't. I think I'm going to do something else.
Yeah, he never tells me what happens. I'm not working with him again.
Exactly. Yeah. But then we had some chats and some meetings before, and it's such a luxury as an actor to be invited in that early. I don't think I've ever tried that actually. Only with Søren Malling, that he allows me in to discuss the character and the project before there is a script, and it's not like he's just a good listener, and he's so he's such a brilliant writer. I think I have so much respect for him, but also I respect that he's so confident in himself and his work, and he knows so much what he wants that he doesn't feel threatened if someone has an idea. He doesn't say, no, I don't want to hear it. He's like, well, let's hear all the ideas, and if there's someone who has a better idea than mine, I might use it. So that kind of open mindedness in the whole creative process with script writing and acting has just been so inspiring.
Was there anything in the plot that was your idea that you got in any of the series?
No, I mean it's his story, it's his script. So it will be little.
More about characterization of Søren Lund was more from you or from him, or what was the balance of that?
Well, I definitely it was like I don't even remember whose ideas is whose. It's his basic idea, but what he would do is he would write as we shot, meaning that he would write an episode, and while we were shooting that episode, he would write the next one, him and his co-writers. And that, of course, that's a very, very stressful way to work, and you never have time to prepare, you never have time to have really deep thoughts, but you get a lot of trust in your instincts and your, first idea. And it also suddenly opens up for the possibility to change things. And what he would do is every time he would have an episode almost finished, we would have a read-through with all the actors and the director of that episode and the producers and the writers. And after we'd read it, we would go into his office in turns. So it would be, there were always, was always 3 plots in The Killing. There was a police plot,
Yes.
a political plot,
Yes.
and then a family
Yes.
plot. So we would go in with our plot. I would go in with the police force
Yes.
and meet the writers.
They weren't going to give you a jumper in series 3, were they?
No, we actually, the jumper became, there were times when I felt that I was just some stuffing in the jumper. The jumper was just, it took all the attention.
Yeah.
So when we were doing the series 2, when we were starting that, I didn't want to wear a jumper again. I thought,
You were in high heels at the beginning of series 3, and you had a hat.
yes, that was 3.
Yeah.
Yes, but the short stories that we found out that we couldn't, I mean, you can't, first of all, I think it's a brilliant costume.
Yeah.
I really, really,
Yes,
I
amazing.
think it's my favorite costume ever because it was such a clear costume that told so many things about the character and about who she was and about that I didn't really have to play anything. But obviously you got to a point where it was almost disturbing because it became like fashionable somehow, and that wasn't the intention with the jumper. So we thought, could we put her in a short shirt, or could we put her in a? And we tried everything, and we would end up with the jumper again, just trying to vary the colors. It was too strong.
It was
the
so
jumper, you couldn't
it was iconic.
overpower it.
Absolutely iconic. I mean, I'll share with you just quite how obsessed people became. This was made. It's a little knitted
Oh, I
Sarah
forgot.
Lund.
It's a knitted Sarah Lund.
Little knitted Sarah Lund.
Yes.
With the jumper. I mean, that's amazing, isn't it? It's incredible. The person who made that is called Deadly Knitshade on Twitter. But she also knitted a little tiny strang from series 2, the rotten one, the one who turned bad. But Sarah Lund, she goes on quite a journey, doesn't she, from series 1 through to series 3.
I think if you watched the beginning of The Killing first season, there is quite a big step from where she ended. She was quite open and smiling, and which also had to do with me spending a lot of time finding the character. And actually, I remember at the wrap party of the first season, we had done 20 episodes. Søren, the writer, came up to me and said, I think you found the character of Sarah Lund around episode 18. I think we nailed her. And in a way, I thought he was right, because in episode 18, we had sort of stripped her of everything. There was only the necessary lines written and only the necessary emotion shown, which was really what we wanted with that character. And then, obviously, once we found that very, very dark, lonely place is her land, she doesn't really belong anywhere. That loneliness and that isolation, I think we in the second season, we had to see how far can we then take her down that dark, dark alley. And then in the third season, I think that's also one of the reasons why I thought it was beautiful to end it, even though it was painful. And I actually miss that project terribly, was that we couldn't really get any further with her.
Did you have trouble filming it, given that you're a terrible giggler?
Actually, it's funny because a lot of people came and said, isn't it extremely hard to be in this very, very dark atmosphere, and I was like, what, we're having a ball. We're laughing so much, and yes, I have a problem with, but only with certain people.
Yeah. You
And
had
one
it
of the certain people, Søren Malling, whom I think you all know, he is, I don't know what it is, but when we look at each other, we just start giggling. And that was a problem because we had to solve a crime.
Yes.
And it was serious business.
Yes.
And but Søren Malling is just actually the killing was his big, because he's been an actor for years and years and years in Denmark, and he's always been brilliant, but he's never had that big, platform, or people hasn't really known him. And so when he came to the casting, I did a casting with him, I just thought that he is just, because he's so much fun to work with. He's an anarchist, I think, which is in the sense that you never know what he's going to do. And that's good for me, because I tend to get a bit too controlled, and I'm afraid of making mistakes and all of that. So I'm always looking for someone to push me, because if nobody pushes me, I won't make mistakes. No. But he's good because he doesn't care, and he's just, you see it in his eyes, he's constantly ready to just shake the ground under you. So I loved working with him, and I was so happy when I heard that they had given him the part, and we just clicked from the beginning. We had the greatest collaboration ever. But when you say giggling, there was one, oh, it's so pathetic in many ways. In episode 18 in the first season, we sit down and read, and we knew, because the writer had told us that Maya, which was his name, Maya, I think you call him, is going to die in episode 18. So we were prepared, and then we sat down and had our read-through, and what I wasn't prepared for, because I'm a very rational person. I'm not an emotional,
You're very Danish.
I'm very Danish.
Yeah, you're very Danish.
But when we got to the page and we read the page where, and Søren was sitting right, Søren Malling was sitting right opposite me at the table, I thought, I'm going to break down sobbing, and I thought, this is just embarrassing. So after the read-through, I managed to, and we read it, so I went into my dressing room, and I just broke, it was pathetic. Broke down because Maya is going to die. And then Søren came in, and then he started crying. So we were like, pathetic, grown-up people.
But it wasn't even a proper dressing room. It was just literally just,
There
you
was
went
just
stood
a
behind a
curtain.
curtain.
But no, just one of the worst giggles we've had was his dying scene. This scene that made me cry at the read-through. Because the scene was, we were in a building. I had insisted, Sarah Lund had insisted that we'd go into this building. He was worried, it's wrong. I just go in, I don't give a shit about his opinion. He has to follow, and then the killer is in there, and he gets shot, and I hear the shot, and I run down, and he's on the floor, bleeding, and I run to him, and there's this whole drama of calling an ambulance, and are you with me, and blood pouring out, and brilliant, lovely scene, serious scene. And then on the first take, they had so much blood pouring out. They had some tubes with blood pouring out. So there was a pool of blood beside him. The only problem with those tubes was that air got in the tubes.
Yes.
So it made these really loud farting noises. And the sound man said, "Don't just, we'll repair it in what you call it, the dubbing after."
Yeah, fix
It's
it in the
very
dub.
hard to ignore it when
Yeah.
you're sitting
Yeah.
with a dying man. So the very first shot, or the very first take, they said action, and I ran down to him, and I slipped in all the pool of blood, and I slipped on to Søren, and he went, oh! And we had to continue with those farting. I can't believe we got that scene shot.
Yeah. But you used to giggle with Mikael as well, didn't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
I giggled with all the men, Emma.
Yeah.
No, but it's also the thing. I think the thing about giggles is that you think it, and you always get embarrassed because it's like you're not serious or you're not into it. But actually, my experience is when you giggle, it's often because you have a certain connection with the other actor that you feel it tickles, and maybe you get a little bit embarrassed or scared. I mean, it's a reaction that often proves, in my experience, that you are something is tickling, which you can use in the scenes.
Yeah.
So yes.
So are you absolutely 100% certain that there will never be a Killing 4?
Well, you'll have to ask the writer that, don't you? Because it's his story, and he is he is God. He is conceiving that universe.
But would you do it again?
I must say that I loved doing it. I thought it was really, really hard work. I'm a single mother. I have 2 children. There's a lot of night shooting, and I got to a point when every time they got a new script, again at night running with the flashlight, and because it's just tough. You come home at 6 in the morning, and so when we finished, I was like, never, ever anymore.
Yeah.
And also, I think there is a beauty in ending something while it's still good. And actually, I was working in the UK all of last year, which was just the most lovely experience for me.
In the James plays?
In the James plays and in
Fortitude.
Fortitude. Yeah. And I noticed a lot of similarities between us. I think also that's one of the reasons why you respond to the Scandinavian dramas, because we are so much alike in many ways, but we are also different in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Oh!
Hey! It's Søren!
We were just talking about
How are you?
I'm good.
Good. Do you want to come and join
do you have
us?
a mic?
No, I'm off.
Oh.
I'll be back later.
I'll be back later. I'll be back later.
Was that? See, you never know what he's going to do.
I know. Well, not very.
Oh, I had a thought.
Yeah.
About our. What was it? What were you?
We were basically saying, would you ever do a Killing 4?
Yeah. It's because I've noticed that you are so. You love tradition. I mean, the British culture. I think you have such a beautiful sense of tradition, which is something that we admire. And it has obviously many effects. You have good manners, for instance.
Yes.
So you don't throw everything historic away.
Yeah.
But it also means that you have TV shows from the 50s still running, and you have theater plays still on. It would never happen in Denmark. So I think we have that, and that's one of the things I also admire Denmark's Radio, the producer of The Killing, for. Because it would be so easy for them to say, oh, we have a recipe here, there's a crime story, it sells really well, let's just keep doing that, because that's what people want.
Yeah.
I think there's something really admirable, whether you're a TV station or a single person, to keep challenging yourself.
Yeah.
And not just fall back on what you know work. So in that sense, I was happy that it ended.
Yeah.
But I miss it.
I'm sorry we've run out of time. It has
Yes.
whizzed by. But thank you very, very much. And please give a warm round of applause to Sofie Gråbøl.